श्री गणेशाय नमः। श्री सरस्वत्यै नमः। श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। योऽन्तः प्रविश्य मम वाचमिमां प्रसुप्तां सञ्जीवयत्यखिलशक्तिधरस्वधाम्ना अन्यांश हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यम्। सुखं नित्यं स्वप्रकाशं व्यापकं नामरूपयोः अधिष्ठानं बुद्ध्यबोध्यं बुद्धेर्दृग्यत्तु निर्मलम् अपारं सर्ववेदान्त वेद्यं प्रत्यक्परं महः तदेवाहं न मत्तोऽन्यत इति मे निश्चिता मतिः। We were analyzing the nature of Jiva, Ishvara, Kutastha and Brahma. Jiva, Kutastha, Ishvara, Brahma. In this order. We understood who is Jiva, what is Kutastha, who is Ishvara and what is Brahman. Jiva is that Chaitanya which is conditioned by Buddhi, Avidya, Ajnana. Buddhi, later it was defined as conditioned by Ajnana. And at the same time, the Adhisthana Chaitanya. Chaitanya plus conditioned consciousness, that is Upahita Chaitanya and Upadhi together forms Jiva. For Ishvara, the same definition was given, but the conditioning was Maya. Maya Upahita Chaitanya Adhisthana Chaitanyancha iti Ubhayam. So, Shuddha Chaitanya, pure consciousness principle, its conditioning, which is Maya, and Adhisthana, Maya its conditioning, altogether was Ishvara. For Kutastha, the Chaitanya, pure consciousness principle, which forms Adhisthana, substratum for ignorance or Buddhi, was referred to as Kutastha. And at total level, at Samashti, that which forms the Adhisthana for Maya was referred to as Brahman, the Chaitanya which is present in and through this entire creation. That is Brahman. Further, this Brahman was analyzed. Brahman was referred to as all-pervasive, Nirupadhika, the bigness, not limited by space, time and object. It does not have any limitation. Why? Because there is nothing else existing which can limit Brahman. An entity can be limited by something which exists other than that entity in the same plane of reality. But this entire creation and time, space and objects, etc., they are superimposed on Brahman, and superimposed entity can never affect Adhisthana substratum. Therefore, Brahman never gets conditioned or limited, pervaded by anything. Therefore, the pervasiveness, Vyapakatva of Brahman was said to be unconditional. For Maya, Maya also is Vyapaka. Why? Because this entire creation is from Maya. So wherever Maya is, entire creation is. Maya is. But on the contrary, Maya gets pervaded by Brahman. But Brahman never gets pervaded by anything. Therefore, pervasiveness of Maya is conditioned or relative, but for Brahman it is not so. It is unconditioned. With all this analysis, author is coming back to one question which was raised about Shruti quotation. Upanishad verse Dva Suparna. Dva Suparna iti Shrutya Jiva Brahma Bhedaha Avagamyate iti. Now the question which is being raised or asked is, even though you are talking about all this oneness, etc., in reality, actually, in Shruti itself, Dvaita has been told. Duality has been indicated. There are two things which are present. How so? In Mundakopanishad Shruti, Dvasuparna, there, Jiva Brahma Bhedaha, the difference between Jiva and Brahma, Bheda, the duality of Jiva and Brahma has been told, and from that Shruti it can be understood. And so also, and also in this way, what is the other logic? Anyatha कर्मोपासना विधि वैयर्थ्यम इति शंकायाः समाधानम. If you do not take to this duality, the injunction of karma and upasana given in Veda will be futile, and no statement from Veda is without any meaning. For all injunctions which are given in Veda, there is some purpose. If this entire thing is mithya, if oneness, the jiva, is Brahman, then there is no karma and upasana possible for jiva. And if no karma and upasana possible for jiva, their injunction in Veda will be purposeless, futile. And because such injunctions have been given for jiva, therefore Vedas accept jiva different from Brahman, therefore jiva is different from Brahman. This was the question for which now answer is being given. चैतन्याभासः भुङ्क्ते कूटस्थः असङ्गः प्रकाशते. Answer in short. चैतन्याभासः, चैतन्याभासः चिदाभास, reflected consciousness. भुङ्क्ते, experiences. कूटस्थः असङ्गः, असङ्ग, unconnected, untouched. कूटस्थ, that कूटस्थ. Chaitanya, prakashate, illumines, makes everything known. Self-illuminous, self-knowledge principle that makes everything known. Now explanation. Chaturvidham Chaitanyam Uktam. Chaitanya in 4 different ways or in 4 different types was explained. Same Chaitanya which is available for experience or classified can be classified in 4 different ways. What was that? Jiva, Kutastha, Ishvara, Brahman. There, in that classification, Tatra, Jiva Swarupantargata Mithyabhuta Chidabhasanshah eva Punya Pape Krutva Tat Phalam Anubhavati Na Kutastha. What was established there in that analysis? Punya Pape Krutva Tat Phalam Anubhavati. Punya and Papa, all the results of good and bad karma, deeds, is experienced by not jiva in its entirety, but chidabhasa ansha, the reflected consciousness part alone is the experiencer, and not kutastha, the chaitanya, shuddha chaitanya part. In jiva, there are 2 parts. One was Adhishthana Chaitanya, which was referred to as Kutastha, as well as Chidabhasa with its Upadhi, that was Buddhi, or you can take Ajnana. There further we had analyzed, it is not even Chidabhasa, but that Avidya, that Buddhi alone is the experiencer of Punya and Papa. But For the sake of understanding, just it was said Chidabhasa alone can be taken for the simplicity. So who is the experiencer of uh, Punya and Papa? The Chidabhasa Ansha. Chidabhasa part and not Chaitanya part. Satu असंगतया आनंदस्वरूपः एव प्रकाशते. But Kutastha illumines, shines forth, being untouched. It shines forth. Asangataya Ananda Swarupa, it is happiness principle. It shines forth as unsurpassed pure happiness principle. Now, why this explanation? Because the meaning that was given by the questioner for this particular mantra is in a different way. It has been taken in inappropriate way, in a wrong way. What is it? Yaduktam, that which was said earlier. बुद्धिरूप वृक्षे जीवः परमात्मा च इति द्वौ पक्षिणौ स्तः तयोः जीवः कर्मफलं भुङ्क्ते परमात्मा तं प्रकाशयन् आस्ते इति द्वासुपर्णेति श्रुतेरर्थः इति तत्र उच्यते. बुद्धिरूप वृक्षे, on a tree in form of buddhi, there are two birds. Who are they? Jivaha Paramatma cha. There is Jiva and there is Paramatma. Tayoho, in between those two, Jivaha Karmaphalam bhungte. Jiva experiences Karmaphala, the results of its karma. Paratma, Paramatma, tam prakashayan aste. Paramatma illumines those and just stays as it is. Iti dvasuparneti shruterarthaha. This is the meaning of that particular mantra. Now, this is not the way in which that Shruti should be understood. In what way that particular mantra, that Shruti should be understood? न तत्र जीव परात्मानौ ग्राह्यौ. You should not take Jiva and Paratma, Paramatma, as those two birds. Before we progress further with the further explanation, let's go back. Who was the experiencer of Karma Phala? Not Jiva. Even though we say Jiva experiences, but what part of Jiva? That was Chidabhasansha. In Ishvara, whatever were the upadhis, omniscient, omnipotent, etc., those were not of Chaitanya, but conditioned consciousness. That was Maya Upahita Chaitanya part. So Chidabhasa, which was present in Maya Upadhi, that alone was omniscient, omnipotent, karma phaladata, etc. Understand? Again, there the Chaitanya part was unconditioned. It did not have any quality as such. This should be understood clearly in our mind. Then alone this mantra will be clear. Kintu abhasaha. See the text. Na tatra jiva paratma anograhya. Jiva and paratma should not be taken. Why? Kintu abhasa, but abhasa. Because if you take jiva, the Chaitanya which is present in that jiva as adhisthana also will be experiencer, and which goes against its definition. Only conditioned consciousness, reflected consciousness alone can be experiencer. Same will be for Ishvara. आभासः कर्मफलं भुङ्क्ते कूटस्थ प्रकाशमानः आस्ते इति तस्याः श्रुतेरर्थः ज्ञेयः. Understand this in this way. Abhasa, there are two birds. Taya dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samanam vruksham parishasvajate tayoranyaha pippalam swadvatti anashnan anyaha abhichakashiti. One is experiencing and one without experiencing stays but and illumines. Abhichakashiti. The one who is experiencing is the abhasa ansha, and the one who is illumining is the kutastha ansha, kutastha. This is the meaning, or that shruti should be understood in this way. Iti tasyaha shruterartha jneyah. Chaitanyabhasa evam karmakarta phaladata cha natu shuddha chaitanyam. Explanation. Chaitanyabhasa eva. Chaitanyabhasa Chidabhasa alone is karmakarta, doer and giver of karma phala, and not Shuddha Chaitanya, pure consciousness principle. Jiva Swarupantargata Chichaya Rupa Bhasangshaha karma karoti. In Jiva, that part which formed Chidabhasa or Chidabhasa part, Jiva Swarupantargata, the Chidabhasa part alone karma karoti, performs karma. Karma kurvataha abhasanshasya Ishvara Swarupantargata Chichaya Rupabhasanshaha phalam prayati. While it is performing karma, Ishvara Swarupantargata Chichaya Rupabhasanshaha, Ishvara Swarupantargata, in Ishvara, that part which was the Chidabhasa, that will give phalam prayachati. To whom? That abhasansha which is doing karma. Karma kurvataha, the one who is performing karma, that abhasanshasya, of that abhasansha. Therefore, abhasaha eva, that Chidabhasa alone is karma karta, abhasaha eva phaladata cha. So abhasa alone becomes karma phaladata, karma phala, karma karta, doer and giver of karma phala. Doer enjoyer, giver of karma phala, ordainer. Anena ayam artha siddha. By this meaning becomes clear. This artha, this meaning is established. Jiva swarupantargata bhasanshaha punya pape krutva tat phalani bhungte. The Chidabhasa which is present in Jiva performs karma and experiences karma phala. Ishvara nishtha bhasanshaha tu, but Chidabhasa which is present in Ishvara karma phalani prayachati, gives karma phala to other Chidabhasa which is performing karma and experiencing karma. Etad ubhayanugata chaitanyanshe na kapi varta asti. And none of these, doer, enjoyer and giver of karma phala, is present, is there in Shuddha Chaitanya, pure consciousness principle, which is present in both Jiva and Ishvara. Nakapi varta asti. There is not even an iota of this called doubt, not doubt, quality in there. Even very little of this quality is not present, of experiencerhood or enjoyerness, experiencership, enjoyership, etc. Not even little bit of it is present in Shuddha Chaitanya. It's not there at all. Jivagata Chaitanyanshe कर्मकर्तृ तत्फल भोक्तृत्व संबंधः न वर्तते. The Chaitanya, Adhisthana Chaitanya, pure consciousness principle present in Jiva, in that Chaitanya, in reality, in Atma or Brahman, karma kartrutva, doerness, tatphala bhoktrutva, enjoyerness, tat sambandha, relation to that, na vartate, is not present. So Brahman never becomes, whether it is for giving up, Brahman, whether it is present as Adhisthana for Jiva or Adhisthana for Ishvara, either way, it will never have the qualities of Jiva and Ishvara. Ishvaragata Chaitanyanshepi na Karmaphala Datrutva Rupa Sambandhosti. Ishvara may be Karmaphala Data, but that Karmaphala Datrutva quality will not get connected or will not be of Shuddha Chaitanya. It will always be of its Chidabhasa, Chidabhasamsha. Yastu tasmin chaitanye karmakartrutva phaladatrutvaadikam varnayati samurkhaha eva. But the one who paints, the one who imagines, the one who thinks that enjoyerness, enjoyership, doer, enjoyer and giver of karma, everything is Brahman, that Shuddha Chaitanya is Murkha, is a fool, a foolish person. Yataha, because Chaitanyam ubhayatrapi asangam ekarupancha vartate. Because Chaitanya, Shuddha Chaitanya, which is present in both, whether Jiva or Ishvara, is one and asanga, untouched, unconnected. Whole this explanation will be easily understood in terms of our example, that is Ghatakasha and Abhrakasha. Let's take Ghatakasha. Ghatakasha, Ghata, pot, space conditioned by pot, and that space is nothing but total space. Abhrakasha, not Ghatakasha, Jalakasha. Actually, Jalakasha. So, water contained within a pot, space reflected in that water, and space which is forming an adhisthana for that space. So, which is in reality total space. Meghakasha. Megha, in that space reflected in water particles suspended in that total space and total space. Now, the darkness is of that water particles and not of total space. Any quality that you can imagine will belong to either water or that pot. The shape of cloud will determine the shape of cloud space, Abhrakasha. But is it really the shape of that space? No. All these qualities of upadhi, the conditioning, are being superimposed on first reflected consciousness and then eventually on the consciousness itself. When we had analyzed, we had seen Buddhi. Buddhi is the in reality experiencer. Who is the experiencer when we analyze? The experiencer is Buddhi alone. I am just trying to revise. Why Buddhi alone? Because when Buddhi is available then alone experiences are possible. That's why in deep sleep, where intellect, buddhi is not available, no experience is possible. So, kartrutva, bhoktrutva is with buddhi alone. So, kartrutva, bhoktrutva belongs to buddhi. Buddhi independently can never exist. So, there is reflected consciousness which is present. And when reflected consciousness comes together with buddhi, they both together appear so intermixed with each other like the red crystal. The qualities of like crystal which is kept on red colored flower or red colored cloth. The red color of cloth gets mixed with crystal and crystal appears red. In the same way, that Chidabhasa, even though Chidabhasa does not have any of those qualities, that is Kartrutva and Bhoktrutva, qualities of that Buddhi get mixed with Chidabhasa. So now Chidabhasa appears to be doer, enjoyer, etc. And that Chidabhasa gets superimposed and mixed with Adhishthana Chaitanya. And therefore, Adhishthana Chaitanya, Chidabhasa Buddhi all together appear to be doer and enjoyer. So it is superimposition after superimposition, one after the other. But in reality, Chaitanya is untouched. So Adhishthana Chaitanya, whether it is for Jiva or whether it is for Ishvara, it is one and the same. But the reflected consciousness in those, the qualities, that is doer and enjoyer and giver of karma phala, are present, and that's how it should be understood. Chaitanya matre na kopi bheda gandhosti. In Chaitanya, na kopi bheda gandha asti. The Chaitanya which forms Adhishthana, substratum for both Jiva or Ishvara. No idea of Bheda is possible. How? Total space is total space. How can you differentiate between that? Space is same in and through all. Yastu Jiva Chaitanyam Ishvara Chaitanya Jiva Chaitanyam Ishvara Chaitanyat Ishvara Chaitanyam va Jiva Chaitanyat Bhinnataya Manyate sa Vigarhyaha Bhavati iti. The one who experiences or thinks that Jiva Chaitanya referring to Adhishthana Chaitanya Jiva, or Adhishthana Chaitanya for Jiva, or Adhishthana Chaitanya for Ishvara, is different. In short, Jiva and Ishvara is different. Ishvara Chaitanyam va Jiva Chaitanyat Bhinnataya Manyate sa Vigarhyaha Bhavati. And Ishvara is different from Jiva. He is blamable. He is a culprit. Tathacha Shruti, and this alone has been said. Brahmatam Paradat, yo anyatra atmanaha brahmaveda, sarvam tam paradat, yo anyatra atmanaha sarvam veda. Everything Brahmatam Paradat, Brahma gets destroyed for him. It gets dur, it goes away for him. Yaha anyatra atmanaha brahmaveda. The one who thinks that Brahman is different from himself, for him everything of his is lost. Sarvam tam paradat. He loses everything. Everything is lost for him. Everything gets destroyed for him. Yaha atmanaha anyatra atmanaha sarvam veda. Simple. When you separate yourself from totality, totality is lost for you. Once you understand you are never different from totality, any change that may occur in totality, you are untouched, unperturbed. How can anything be lost for you? Only when something is different from you, it will be lost. But if there is nothing different from you, how can that thing be lost? It never gets destroyed for you. मृत्योस्स मृत्युमाप्नोति य इह नानेव पश्यति. मृत्योः स मृत्युमाप्नोति. He goes from death to death. He goes from death to death. That is, he undergoes many cycles of rebirth, and he continues to undergo cycles of rebirth. Death, birth, death, etc. Ya iha naneva pashyati. The iha nana iva. The one who sees Jiva and Ishvara as different from each other. Udaramantaram kurute athatasya bhayam bhavati. The one who udaramantaram, who sees Jiva and Brahman as different from each other, athatasya bhayam bhavati. He gets fear. He is affected by fear. He will be afraid who sees differences in this world. Dvitiyadvai bhayam bhavati. Another Shruti quotation. Only when you see something which is different from you, it will be the cause of fear. If there is nothing different from me, should there be any reason for me to be afraid? No. Etena, by all these, Jiveshwarayoho Aikyabhyupagame. By all these Shruti quotations and by this analysis, when oneness between Jiva and Ishvara is understood, Karmopasana Pratipadaka Veda Bhago Nushthantra Bhavat Nirarthakaha Syat. Simple. Karmopasana Pratipadaka Veda Bhaga. That Veda Bhaga, that part of Veda which enjoins karma and upasana. That Veda Bhaga, that part of Veda which enjoins karma and upasana. And Anushtatru Abhava. Anushtatru, the one who will do Anushtana. The Abhava, the absence of the doer of karma and upasana, and part of Veda which enjoins karma and upasana will not be nirarthaka. Abhavat nirarthakaha syat iti dvitiya shankapi idanim samahita. What was the second doubt? Second doubt was, if there is oneness between Jiva and Ishvara, then injunction of karma and upasana will be futile, pointless. Why? Because there is no doer or enjoyer, anushtatru, the doer of those karma and upasana. And if there is no doer for those karma and upasana, injunction of that karma and upasana is purposeless. Therefore, which the answer is given, explanation is given, no. Why? There is doer and enjoyer for karma and upasana, but the only thing is, it is abhasa, superimposed, and it is not chaitanya. We are talking about oneness from the point of chaitanya standpoint and not abhasa standpoint. As long as you are experiencing, as long as you are looking at abhasa, the Veda Bhaga which enjoins karma and upasana will be necessary, will be required. जीवेश्वरानुगत चैतन्यभागयोः अभेदः आभासभागयोः भेदः च अस्ति। तस्मात् उभयविषयोरपि वेदभागयोः प्रामाण्यं समञ्जसम्। जीवेश्वरानुगत, अनुगत in Jiva and Ishvara, present in Jiva and Ishvara. Chaitanya bhagayoho bhedaha, Chaitanya bhagayoho abhedaha. The Chaitanya part of both has a bheda. They are not different. And abhasa bhagayoho bhedaha cha asti. And the abhasa bhaga, the chidabhasa, has bheda. Why? Because their conditionings are different. Therefore, ubhaya vishayoho api veda bhagayoho pramanyam samanjasam. So the Veda Bhaga, the part of Veda which talks about oneness, is talking about Chaitanya aspect, and the part which talks about duality and injunction of karma and upasana is talking about abhasansha. So Veda becomes pramana. No part of Veda is futile or purposeless. जीव ब्रह्मणोः लक्ष्यार्था भेद संभवात् अहम ब्रह्म इति जानीयात् इति गुरुपदेशः. From lakshyartha standpoint, from implied meaning standpoint, there is oneness between Jiva and Brahma. Aham Brahma iti janiyat. And from implied meaning standpoint, by implied meaning alone, the oneness between Jiva and Brahman should be understood. Not from direct standpoint, not along with upadhi, but without upadhi. हे सौम्य, त्वत्कृत प्रश्नद्वय मध्ये एकस्मिन् वृक्षे द्वौ पक्षिणौ स्तः तयोरेको भोक्ता अपरो निरीह अतः जीवब्रह्मैक्यं न घटते इति प्रथमः प्रश्नः तत्रैवं समाधानमुक्तम्. That your first question was ekasmin vrukshe, on one tree there are two birds. In them one is bhokta, one is enjoyer. Other one is nirihaha, without any desire. And because those two have been indicated, one as Jiva and one as Brahman, oneness is not possible. There, this is the samadhana, this is the answer. एकवृक्षस्थ पक्षिणोर्मध्ये एकः कूटस्थः अपरः बुद्धौ प्रतिफलितचिदाभास इत्येवं ग्राह्यं न तु जीवपरात्मानौ इति ग्राह्यम्. It is just repetition. On that one vriksha, on that one tree, the two birds which are there, one should be understood as kutastha and other should be understood as buddhau pratifalita chidabhasa. Chidabhasa reflected in buddhi, but not jivatma and paramatma. एतयोः घटाकाशस्य आकाशच्छायायाश्च एव भेदः इति चोक्तम्. In between those two, there is bheda. How? Just like Ghatakasha, there is difference between Ghatakasha and Akasha Chayayaha. Akasha Chaya, the reflected consciousness in Akasha, Chidabhasa. Bheda iti cha uktam. As we had seen earlier, so as there is difference between reflected space and total space or pot space, so is the difference between these two. Tvatkruta dvitiyam ईश्वररीत्या न जीवः कर्मोपासनयोः कर्ता नापि ईश्वरः तत्फलदाता किन्तु तौ चिदाभासौ एव. त्वत्कृत द्वितीय प्रश्नरीत्या न जीवः कर्मोपासनयोः कर्ता. Jiva is not the karta, doer of karma and upasana, but it is chidabhasa alone. जीवगत आभासांशः कर्मोपासनादि करोति, ईश्वरगत आभासांशः फलं ददाति. जीवगत आभास, so that is chidabhasa for Jiva, Chidabhasansha in Jiva does karma, is doer and enjoyer, and Chidabhasansha in Ishvara is giver of karma phala. जीवेश्वरानुगत चैतन्यांशस्तु घटाकाश महाकाशवद भेद शून्यम. But the Chaitanya in between those two is one and the same, just as the pot space and total space is one and the same. Itham Jiva Brahmanoho Aikyam. Jiva Brahmanoho Aikyam Siddhyati. In this way, the oneness between Jiva and Brahman is present, is established. Ataha aham brahmasmi ityeva tvam vijaniyaha. Therefore, you should understand that I am Brahman. You are Brahman. Atra aham shabdartha kutastha iti. In here, in this sentence, aham shabda, the word I is referring to kutastha. ब्रह्म शब्दार्थः महाकाश समतया उक्त लक्ष्यार्थभूत शुद्ध चैतन्यम इति च अवेहि. And Brahma Shabdartha, what is the meaning of Brahman is Mahakash Samataya Ukta Lakshartha Bhuta Shuddha Chaitanyam. So Lakshartha Bhuta Shuddha Chaitanyam. Brahman should not be understood as Ishvara, but Shuddha Chaitanya, just as Mahakasha, total space. Aham iti Brahma, aham asti iti Brahma iti cha shabdayoho, aham iti Brahmeti cha shabdayoho vachaर्थयोः ऐक्यासंभवेपि लक्ष्यार्थयोः तत्सिद्ध्यत्येव. हे सौम्य, even though from direct meaning there is the oneness is not possible. Aham iti, aham shabda and Brahma shabda, in between these two, their direct meaning, from their direct meaning oneness is not possible, but from implied meaning that oneness is established. He Somya, O student, therefore, yavat aham brahma iti aparoksha sakshatkaraha tava dridhataraha na jayate tavat dukkha dainya bhayadikam tvam na jahati. As long as this aparoksha brahma jnana, that I am Brahman, does not become dridha, firm, you are not established in this jnana, so long dukkha dainya bhayadikam tvam na jahati. The sorrow, pitiful condition, the fear, etc., all these will not leave you. They are not going to leave you. They will be with you as long as you are not established in this knowledge. Swaswarupat bhinnataya paramatmanaha jnanamev te bhaya hetur bhavati. Swaswarupat bhinnataya paramatmanaha jnanam. When Paramatma is known to be different from me, one's own self, then alone, that knowledge alone is the cause of bhaya. Udaramantaram kurute atatasya bhayam bhavati. The one who sees the difference, the duality, he alone will experience fear. Ityadi shrutehe. Therefore, tasmat aham brahmasmi ityeva tvam vijaniyaha. Therefore, you must understand and know that you are Brahman. Aham brahmasmi. So for you, I am Brahman. Now, there is one question. So, this earlier part was just more of revision and more of repetition of whatever that was explained earlier, but answering to the point. After having established the theory, The answer was given to the point. Aham Brahm. Now, there is this doubt. Okay, I understood this whole thing. What is Buddhi? What is Chidabhasa? What is Adhishthana Chaitanya, the substratum, etc.? What is Brahman? But who knows I am Brahman? Is it Buddhi? Buddhi by itself is inert. Or is it Chidabhasa? But Chidabhasa cannot say it is Brahman because it is Abhasa. And if knowledge belongs to Adhishthana, then Adhishthana will become Vikari, conditioned, because Adhishthana is untouched. Then who knows I am Brahman? Where is it going? This is the question. Aham Brahma iti jnanam kasya iti vicharaha. Tattva-drushti prashnaha. Hey Swamin, O teacher, O Guru, Aham Brahma iti jnanam kasya jayate? Who knows I am Brahman? Krupaya etan me vaktum arhasi iti. You must answer this question. What is the abhipraya? What is the intention? What is the meaning or what is the purpose behind this question? It is this way. Aham Brahma iti jnanam kim kutasthasya jayate uta chidabhasa vishishta buddhehe. Now we are referring to individual standpoint because at individual level alone this knowledge is referred to or required. Aham Brahma iti jnanam, I am Brahman, this knowledge. Will that knowledge take place to kutastha or chidabhasa vishishta buddhi? Buddhi along with chidabhasa. Yadi kutasthasya iti uchyate tada vikari syat kutastha. If we say kutastha knows, then kutastha will be vikari. It will undergo modification. And kutastha by definition cannot undergo modification. That's why it is called kutastha. So kutastha cannot know that it is Brahman even though kutastha is Brahman. Kutastha can never know. Yadi chidabhasa vishishta buddhehi iti uchyate, if we say that buddhi which is endowed with chidabhasa, that buddhi knows, tarhi tasya utpadyamanam aham brahma iti jnanam brahmarupam syat, then that knowledge is bhranta, wrong. Why? Because that chidabhasa cannot be buddhi, cannot be Brahman. We have already established oneness is from Shuddha Chaitanya standpoint and not from Buddhi standpoint. Kutastha Brahma cha iti ubhayam ekameva. Kutastha and Brahman is one and the same. Abhasastu kalpitatvad brahmanaha bhinnaha iti pragabhitam bhavata. You have told Buddhi and Chidabhasa, Buddhi endowed with Chidabhasa is kalpita, superimposed on substratum, Adhishthana Chaitanya. That's why they two are eternally different. Superimposed entity can never be one with its substratum. Tasmat, therefore, Brahmanaha anyasya chidabhasasya brahmatvena jnanam brahmarupameva syat. And then the knowledge that abhasa is Brahman is bhranta, wrong. Brahmanaha anyasya chidabhasasya, chidabhasa which is different from Brahman is Brahman. This knowledge is Brahma, wrong. Yatha सर्पाद्वितीय लक्षणायां रज्वाम सर्पज्ञानम जायमानम भ्रांति रूपमेव तद्वत्. Even though, so calling rope as snake is just as it is bhranta, It is wrong. Same way will this be. You can never say Abhasa is Adhisthana, but you are saying Abhasa is Adhisthana. एवं च चिदाभास सहित बुद्धेः जायमानम् अहम ब्रह्म इति ज्ञानम् न यथार्थानुभव रूपम भवेत् किंतु भ्रांत रूपमेव. Therefore, if you say Chidabhasa knows, then that knowledge is not yathartha as it is, but bhranta. Wrong, misunderstood. What is the answer? Answer is very simple and very beautiful, but that we will see next time. Om asato ma sadgamaya तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतंगमय. ओम शांति शांति शांति. हरि ओम. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. हरि ओम.